Hello, this is Katherine Cespedes, your host here at Yogini from the Block podcast. Today you are listening to episode number 4, How to Walk in This World, subtitled Navigating Energetically. Today we have a guest, Bertram Byam, and he is calling in from New York City alongside with my producer, John Beathan.
Sorry, I had myself muted there for a minute.
So, well, I'm glad you're back.
Catherine, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
All right. So I have invited Bertram because I have known Bertram. How long would you say that we've known each other? Maybe 10 years at this point?
Yeah, roughly 10. Yep.
Yes.
Time flies.
Time does fly. And we met in college. So just a little background. Rochester has 4 wonderful schools. There is Nazareth College, where I attended and I am alumni. There is University of Rochester. There is St. John Fisher, and then there is RIT. And Bertram, what school did you go to?
RIT, Tigers.
That's right. So we met in probably one of the many social events. And what I noticed about you, Bertram, was that you're in so many different circles. And I was in many different circles, but we continue to cross paths in these circles that we were a part of. And what's so beautiful is to see how you brought yourself, your true, energetic, vibrant self to every single circle that I saw you in, that we cross paths in.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And, I could say that you bring the same energy as well. It's really hard to find people that do that, but somehow it gets done.
It does get done. And I noticed that on social media, you're doing a lot of things. So could you just let us know a few things that you're doing?
Sure. So, my name is Bertram. I go by Powered by Berto on most, web platforms. And what I consider myself is like a connector and collector of positive energy, right? So I do a lot of things from social events, as well as, content, may it be on podcasts, video, things that are just positive and all about being a self-actualized adult. People that are being themselves 100%, being dead ass, which is what I call it. But, all about being yourself and true to yourself in all presence.
Right. And you said that you keeping it what?
Keeping it dead ass. Like,
right.
If someone is not being yourself, you ask them, are you dead ass? And they'll say no. So
what does that mean?
What it's all about to me.
Because I know that this is something that people would understand in New York City or the East Coast, but my podcast and I and John Beathan, we are here in California in the West Coast, so it's a little different. So it really just means about being truthful, about being honest, about being. How would you describe it?
About being true. It's about being serious. It's about being yourself. Oftentimes, you have to look at yourself in the mirror every single day. If you're, a human taking care of yourself, you have to look yourself in the mirror. And if you're not able to do that, that means you're not being true to yourself. And I've looked in the mirror before and gone, wow, that's not you. This is not who you are. And at that moment, I decided to make a change. And that change became a change for myself and then a change for the people around me through the events and the things that I curate.
So you said that you looked in the mirror and you asked, is that really you? So do you mind elaborating a little bit on what happened, like what the situation was that gave you that realization? Because you said that earlier and I thought it was beautiful, becoming a self-actualizing human, right? A self-actualizing adult, I believe you said.
Yes. So I would say that this happened to me twice in life. Both of them in my later years, right? Mm-hmm. As an adult, or as an adult, yeah, you have a lot of things that are constantly changing and becoming a part of you at the very moment, at every second. So after doing 3 years of college and being in a major time with, and being in college, everyone is influencing everyone, right? Mm-hmm. And just being influenced for 3 years straight by other people. I looked in the mirror and I was just like, oh man, I need a break. So I took an internship in Boston, around people that I didn't know, people who I didn't have to do anything for or do anything to impress. And I just spent that time being me, going for long walks, hiking, and doing things where, you have to be one with yourself. You have to find comfort in solitude. So that was the first time it happened. And then after graduating RIT, I moved to Atlanta for a time. I was there for about 9 months. And Atlanta as a culture is amazing. It is so much going on, so much to see, so much to do. But again, in an area with so much to see and do, you then allow yourself to be influenced. And during that time, once my time in Atlanta was done, I moved to Kentucky, which is a place where it's not as much things that can influence you. So you then have to become, again, comfortable with being by yourself. And during that time, I got really comfortable with myself, realizing who I was and where I wanted my life to go, realizing that, hey, I'm from New York. New York is home. New York is love. I'm going to find my way back to New York. So ever since then, I just became a person that was happy with knowing what was right for me and then acting on what was right for me.
Oh, that's so perfect.
Those two they don't go together for most people.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? The last two?
I was just saying, yeah, so I was, when I was leaving Kentucky, I just became a person that knew what was right for myself and also acted on what was right for myself. A lot of people know what's right for them. They know what situations they should be in and what situations they shouldn't be in, but they still, they don't act on it, right? We know we shouldn't be spending more than we can afford on certain things, yet we still do it. Why? Because of the things that influence us.
Wow, that's powerful. That's really powerful. And what I noticed about you was that you were always so vibrant. Like you would show up into a room, and that makes so much sense because it doesn't come from a place that is outside of us. It really is emanating from a place that is within us because of the knowing of who we are and what we bring to the world, that we are continuously able to, and many people do this, and many people in our circles are able to do this, right? Being able to stand there and stand in our knowingness, standing there in the truth of who we are. So acting based on what is best for us. And there are a few people who I noticed have done this in history. For me, one of the people that I really look up to still to this day, she has passed, but is Louise Hay, right? Louise Hay, in 1987, there was this huge AIDS epidemic. And what she did was that she created this space, this fostering, nurturing space for individuals who had AIDS to come and talk. She gave them that space. And this is a woman who, if you look at it, you would think they have nothing in common, right? She's a woman. They were mostly men. They had AIDS. She did not. They were living in whatever situation they were living in with their families, and you would think that she wasn't living that situation because she wasn't in that same. She didn't have that. She didn't have AIDS. So what happened was that she had cancer before this, and she was able to heal herself of cancer through positive affirmation, eating clean, and basically changing the way that she thought.
Just saying.
And
no, but that's good. You're awesome.
And so what she did was that she created the space so that they can come in and they could start healing themselves, so that they can start working within one another. And the number one thing that resonates with what you said and the story is the knowing. She knew who she was. She knew the truth. And the truth was that she is love and light, and that everyone in that room is love and light, was love and light. So I was reading an interview where there was this man talking about his encounter with Louise Hay in this group. And he said that when he walked in, he thought it was like, it was a gay bar in disguise. He was like, there were just so many men in there and I didn't know what was going to happen. So Louise Hay does her talk, and then afterwards she opens up the forum and she was like, now you guys can all share what you want to say. And this one man stood up and he said, today, I've been coming here for some time now, and today I decided to bring someone. And he looked at the gentleman, who was an older gentleman sitting next to him, and the older gentleman stood up and he said, this is my father. And for such a time where homosexuality wasn't widely accepted, every man in that room just began to tear because they accepted that man as their father, because that was just the moment of acceptance, where this son had brought his father to a place where there were other homosexual men with AIDS, and his father gave him a hug. So you could only imagine the emotions that were happening in that room. So what have been gathering thus far is that we're all looking for acceptance and value. At the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. So being vibrant and being one to connect and gather energy, right? You need to stand in your truth in order to do that, so that you don't lose yourself. So the acceptance and the value really comes from within. So shifting that acceptance and the value that is from the outside and really honing it in and creating it as your own, so that whenever you step out into the world, that is what you are giving off, is that acceptance and value that you have curated within yourself. Is there anything that you wanted to add, Bertram?
Great. So thinking about, your influences and when it comes to, navigating energy and navigating energy as a space in time, I think about two people, and I really hang my hat on those two guys. Mm-hmm. James Baldwin, number one, famous novelist and social critic. So for you to be a social critic, you have to be able to be in all spaces and not let those spaces influence you, because you're critiquing them, right? You have to take yourself out of that situation, which I think is very, very important in being mindful, protecting your energy, and then going forward. And then as of late, I look at P. Diddy a lot, like all the time. Yeah. His recent documentary, Can't Stop, Won't Stop, he has a scene in it where he looks at a gentleman and he goes, "Your energy is not right. I'm going to need you to leave and get it together and come back." And the fact that, when you think about everything that we consume today in terms of media, everything is looked over and poured over multiple times before it goes out. Podcasts, they review it, edit it, cut things, videos, movies, the same, right? So for the fact that Diddy would allow that scene to be in his documentary shows how important he thinks that is. It is important that when someone around you has the wrong energy, if you're going to protect your energy, you need to say, "Hey, it's not going to work." You have to be comfortable saying it's not going to work. You have to be comfortable being in a place and seeing that energy being wrong and taking yourself out of it, or seeing yourself in a place where the energy is wrong and changing it, which is, what Lois did. She saw the landscape of how people were being treated, and she made a space for positivity, which is something that we need a lot more of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why can't positivity be cool?
Well, it is. We're in a day and time and age where I couldn't really speak to this fully, because I kind of feel like I have filtered my social media so that everything that I get is like positive. I remember there was a point in time where I just got world star videos like in every other like post, and all of a sudden I don't see those those don't exist. Just to recap a little bit, when you're referring to Louise Hay, you're talking about the 1987 AIDS epidemic, where she came in and she was curating this space for people, right? And you mentioned some great examples with James Baldwin and P. Diddy. Is that what he's going by now? Is P. Diddy? Okay. And
yeah.
Is it? He changes it quite often.
Yeah.
Okay.
It might just be Diddy.
Okay, now it's Diddy. Gotcha. So Diddy, he also did Making the Band, and you see that time and time again how he talks to people and how he curates that space for himself. And you said something very interesting about protecting your energy. So what does that look like in these days, like this time and this space where we live in now, where everything is so fast paced and we're constantly talking to each other on various platforms? So what does that mean?
So protecting your energy, I would say first off, protect your energy at all costs, right? Do whatever it takes to protect your energy. I had a job. I recently switched professions. Still a consultant nonetheless, but I switched companies primarily because the energy was off. No shade to that organization, but I wanted to be someplace where my positivity could take me someplace, not a ladder climbing kind of space. That's professionally, even socially, like you mentioned, going on Instagram and being served up negative things over and over and over again. They serve those things because that's what people watch, and it's strange, but that's what they want. You need to be the person that goes, okay, negativity block. As soon as you see it, you block it. You block it. Even in real time social interaction, if you're at a place, if you're at a bar and someone is belligerent, you don't stand closer to them. You move. So, and that's you protecting your energy. You do it so subtle that you don't know when you're doing it. But then as soon as you realize that you're doing it and you take ownership of consistently protecting your energy, you'll see a great change. Sometimes it's yourself, which is funny, So, you may think protecting your energy is getting away from other people. Sometimes you have to get away from yourself. And that's something that recently happened to me just last week. I was getting ready on Sundays, I like to go on a long drive by myself. I listen to really good music. There's some awesome playlists out there that people are curating that just speak to good energy. So Sunday I was getting ready to go for my drive, and I was looking for my car keys, and I could not find my car keys. And that feeling when that you misplaced something and you can't think of where in the world it could be. And I couldn't find it in the house, couldn't find the keys. No, it was my wallet. I couldn't find the wallet in the house or in the car. And then I called the restaurant that I went to on Friday and found out that the wallet has been there the entire weekend. And I was just so angry at myself, right? So I get in the car and I drive over there, and I'm like, the whole time I'm pretty grumpy that I was so irresponsible. And I stewed in that moment. And I went, and as I was driving, I was like, wow, you're really fuming. And there's this visual, the way I visualize it is like black smoke inside of your chest. When you're harboring bad energy inside you, it's like dark smoke growing inside of your chest and going to your other limbs. You really have to, as we did at the beginning, breathe it out, start forcing it out. So I legitimately forced bad energy out of my body. I started playing some Mary J. Blige really, really loud in the car. Like, started playing it really loud, dancing and just smiling. Even if you're not really smiling about something, just smile and it will flow. I went and picked up the wallet, got it. They were really nice about it. Got back in the car, continued the positive energy, went and got a car wash. And then I just put myself in a space to be happy. And it's not as far-fetched as people think it is. A shower can make you happy. It's the little things.
Yeah. So you said that you have to protect your energy, but you also have to protect it for yourself. Like, you have to protect your energy from yourself, right? And I remember when I started this entire spiritual journey where I became a Reiki practitioner. And there are all these signs and symbols that you need to do in general, right? Like that you have to do in order to practice Reiki. And I remember I would spend 5 to 10 minutes in front of my door doing all these signs and symbols, protecting my energy, sealing my chakras, sealing the energy coming through my feet, my hands, the top of my head. And it took a while. And moving forward to where I am today, I see exactly what I was doing. I was curating that space of you are light, you are love. And whenever I walked out the door, what I felt like was just like a sphere of energy. Just anything good and loving, you are welcome here. Anything else, you could chill right outside the sphere that I have created for myself. And I've brought that practice to everything that I do. I remember at one point, I came to California and I was like, all I know is that I am not going to go back to corporate. Corporate has beautiful, wonderful people. Is not what I wanted to do. So I ended up giving away Obama phones. I think that's what they were called. I don't know. At this point, this is what I call it. I gave away Obama phones. And I remember walking through that door and saying, like, before I opened the door, I would stand in front of it and say, God, we're walking in this together. Whatever you want to do, just do it through me. And eventually I ended up leaving this job and finding myself where I am today, as the communication strategist at Seaside Center for Spiritual Living. But I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And now what you're saying is you're making it very applicable to day to day. Like when we forget our keys, when we lose our wallets, when we are in that funky mode, not only do you know it, right? But other people around you know it. They can feel it just as much as you can feel it, right? So what you did was that you shifted it for yourself. You took responsibility for yourself, and that's what we're doing as, what did you call it earlier? As something about being an adult, like a self-actualizing adult, right? Is that you take responsibilities for what you are feeling at all times.
Yeah. Correct. Mm-hmm. The first part of it is realizing, right? Oftentimes you're in a mood and you realize that you're in a mood and then you do nothing to change it, right? A lot of people, you get in a mood and then guess what you start doing? You start playing even sadder music. Mm-hmm. You start pouring gasoline onto the bad. You feed the bad when instead you have to, stop and tell yourself, no, I'm going to change this. You have power. You have the power to change every single situation in your life. And at the point where you feel like you no longer have the power to change the situations in your life, you still have the power to change your life. So at no point, I went to that job that I was going to and feeling like, man, there's nothing I could do to make the system here better. So what did I do? I left the system. Right. And you can do that in every single sphere of life. People, when businesses do it, they call it disrupting. Oh, this business is a disruptor. You can be a disruptor of bad energy in your life.
I don't think I've ever heard disruptor as a positive word, like the way that you just use it right now. So being a disruptor of bad energy, which means that you are the light in that moment, right? You are the catalyst for change in a positive direction.
Yes. Right? I love that word catalyst.
Yeah.
I love that word catalyst. Yes, because that's really what people need. That's exactly what people need. The status quo is negativity. The norm is negative and a very much go for yourself, selfish thing here in the West. And that's not what it is. That's not real life. Collectivist cultures where everyone pours into one another, those start with people pouring into themselves and being positive. If a person's not positive, guess what? People aren't going to pour into you because they don't stand to gain positivity back from you. When you go and you shed light amongst other people, then they feel encouraged to shed light. And guess what? We all start to shine, and it's just a real beautiful time.
So really navigating energetically is showing up as your true self.
Yes. Because when someone's their fake self, you don't want to be around them. Being fake is just as equal as being negative.
Okay. So really what it all comes back to in a day-to-day application of it is taking inquiry. And I think we have mentioned this before, John, is where you go to the end of the day and you kind of take inventory of your day, your thoughts, your feelings.
Right, a spiritual review.
A spiritual review.
So, but if you start the day, or even if you actually the evening before visualize or feel the next day.
Right.
Just let's just say you have a challenging situation, whatever it may be, and you visualize, yourself going through that with another person, and having it be totally surrounded by light and love and peace, and just a really good feeling. Go to bed with that in the morning, and then at the end of the day, the following day, see how that was for you and how you could make the day better.
Okay. So,
did you get that, Bertram?
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
that makes perfect sense.
Some people, I mean, I call it taking stock, spiritual stock.
So that is for the night before, right? So in what you're both saying, what I'm hearing is the now, is the right now, that we have this, the chance and the opportunity to create the lives that we want to lead in the right now. This isn't about, I'm going to do that later. Like, I'm going to make sure I feel good later. And I have to make sure that I feel good right here and right now in order to go into later and have that feeling, have that success, have that positive exchange with someone, because I prepared myself right now.
Mm-hmm. And part of it, if I may say, about visualizing it or whatever the night before, is putting into motion those things where you can know that when you're in the now, you just know that it is. You've already set it up with the universe. The universe is simply going to say yes to everything. Oh, man, it's going to be a wild, crazy week. Yeah, I can make that happen for you.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful how that works? Right? Today's going to be wonderful. That's what you get. Today's going to be horrible. That's what you get. Like, there is no bias from the universe. Like, you want that, you've got that. So what you said earlier, Bertram, was that whenever you feel like there is a space that you can no longer change or create that positive result that you want in a system, then you would leave the system. How would you work in that moment when there is, I feel like Abraham Hicks says this. She says that we are so wise and we are so in control of our lives that we can enslave ourselves. That's it. That we are so free to make decisions that we make a decision to enslave ourselves in whatever the situation is. So in a situation that it's happening right now, you're having an argument with your coworker, you are in a meeting that's not going very well for you. In that space, what would you suggest?
So in the now, you are, adversity in all forms. We have to go through it. You can't dodge adversity. What you can do, like John mentioned, is know, hey, adversity is coming up. If I'm going to have an argument or a misunderstanding with someone, I pretty much know before it even happens that it's coming. And I'm saying to myself, we're going to be positive through this. We're not going to be bested. We're not going to let this moment best the rest of our day. Everyone, I'm not a slave to my calendar, but I look at it pretty often, and I know that, hey, I have this meeting with a client coming up. Things aren't really going well. There might be some adversity here. Let's prepare ourselves. Let's prepare ourselves to go through it, get through it, and have a continued great day. Even that's at work and that's at play. You have to prepare yourself with positivity and fortify your happiness, and say that, again, you can enslave yourself and you could tell yourself, I'm going to be unhappy. And guess what? You're going to be unhappy. You're going to be a slave to your unhappiness that you just brought upon yourself. Or you can tell yourself that, hey, for the next, 20 minutes, things are going to be turbulent. But on the end of this 20 minutes, I'm going to be happy again. That is changing. That is you changing the system.
One of the greatest affirmations that was ever given to me as a gem and a gift was in an organization I was working in. It was a nonprofit, eclectic spiritual organization, and they were being the IRS was contesting their status as a nonprofit. Okay. So it turns out this gentleman, if it makes any difference, he was a triple Aries. So we're talking a warrior. And he actually went into court for the day and came back and everything was fine. And I asked him what he did. And he says, my affirmation is, may the light in me unite with the light in you for right action.
Namaste.
Namaste. No, he never said that.
Well, that's what namaste is, right? The namaste is that the light in me sees the light in you.
For right action.
That makes a difference.
It was action. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, talking about that, it's also about standing in your truth and knowing what it is that you're coming in with, being honest with yourself after doing the taking the spiritual stock of your emotions, of your experiences. And just recently, I remember having a conversation with a coworker where he walked into the room, and I literally asked him, do you want to close the door so we can have a conversation? Because I feel like we need to be honest with one another. And I went in there not expecting anything other than being my true self. Like, I am not here to create any sorts of bad energy. I really just want to talk. I really just want to express. And we came out of that conversation that literally took 5 minutes. It was probably an awkward, uncomfortable 5 minutes for the both of us. And we became colleagues. Like, we actually started working with each other. He actually made a decision that would benefit the both of us. And then after making that decision, he looked at me and he was like, is that okay? And I was like, wow, that is more than okay. Actually, I am so glad and honored that you even thought that would help me and you. So it was about me being honest with myself and how I was feeling and how I felt this relationship was working, because I want to be here to shed light. I want to be here to make a change, but I want to be here so that there is the good of everyone. It's not because I am Kathy, I am Kat, however you met me at whatever point. It is because this is the individual that I am, and this is what I want to see in the world. And thus I've created this huge shift in me. And now I want to see how this shift in me is going to correspond with other individuals. How can I continue on that path even when I feel uncomfortable? And then understanding and taking a good look at myself and saying, I'm feeling sad, or I am feeling disappointed, but this is a passing feeling. This isn't who I am. This is a passing feeling. So what do I want to do with this feeling? Do I want to sit in it? I've done that before. So I've literally sat in the funk, and then I'm like, okay, I'm over it. I did it for like 5 minutes. It was nice, but really taking account of how I'm feeling and not discrediting the times that I don't feel 1,000% positive, because being positive isn't about being fake. Like you said, being positive is about being genuine and really understanding not only what I'm thinking, but what I'm feeling and how I am expressing it, how I am communicating, because I can't discredit what I'm feeling, and therefore I cannot discredit what anyone else is feeling. Right? So having that conversation, like, okay, you are feeling this way. I can feel it. I can feel what you're experiencing right now. Let's talk about this. And being okay with being uncomfortable for the 5 minutes, 10 minutes, hour, but knowing that that's going to pass. And what's going to come thereafter is going to be massive growth, expansion. And moving forward, it's now we're working together. Now we can get the ball rolling. Now things are going to start changing because we're both in the same we're both in the same boat. And this is not a battlefield. It's not me against you. This is us moving forward together to create something bigger than we are.
And what you're doing is you're creating the right outcome, which John just mentioned, right? Mm-hmm. Me and you together for the right outcome, not for the wrong one. The wrong one is continued negativity. The right one is, a positive space for both. Okay.
Are there any closing comments? All right. So I just want to kind of bring this around a little bit. Earlier, Bertram, you mentioned how when you are in that funky feeling, you feel it, and you use images to kind of see what that looks like for you. And what that looks like for you is black smoke in your chest. Yes. So you literally are pushing it out, exhaling it out, moving it out, whether that be through dancing, through music, through the repetition of the words of the conversation that you're having in your head, right? And then, correct. John, you mentioned how to create a successful day by preparing the night before and having that in mind for yourself, right?
Part of the big idea behind that is to be able to go through the next day with grace, because all the details have already been worked out. So it's just a matter of showing up.
Okay. So that being said, this is how we individually so beautiful because we're such different people, have experienced such different lives, and we've come to the same conclusion, how to walk in this world and how to navigate energetically. Bertram, I want to thank you for being here with us this afternoon, evening for you. If anyone wanted to reach out to you or to contact you, how could they do that?
The best bet is Powered by Berto on most platforms, and then over email, info@poweredbyberto.com.
Okay.
So say that again slowly. Powered by
Berto, BERTO.
Oh, powered
and then,
by.
Correct. So the whole idea is I just want to power positivity and get that out to people in my form and fashion. Right. So, any emails, info@poweredbyberto.com.
Well, Katherine will include it in the show notes.
I have. So they are there for your chance to reach out to Bertram at Powered by Berto. And thank you once again for being here. And thank you, John.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.